filming outside tonight. It's a pleasant evening, and from time to time you may hear the dulcet tones of festive explosions. Anyway, so the Golden Goblins won by a landslide this afternoon, and by a landslide I mean 60%. So that's good, and it's good because it's a Manly Wade Wellman story. Let's begin. Each warrior was given a sacred bundle to keep and to pass on in reverence down through the generations. The Golden Goblins by Manly Wade Wellman. Long spears tailoring... Long spears tailoring was, if anything, superior to John Thunderstone's, and his necklace more carefully knotted. His blue-black hair, if a trifle longer than currently fashionable, lay smooth and glossy to his skull, swept back from a broad brow, the colour of a well-kept old saddle. His eyes gleamed like wet licorice, and when he slightly smiled, his teeth made a pure white slash in his rectangular face. Longspear had been an honour man at some southern university. What? Okay. Oh. Wait. Southern University. Member of a good fraternity and captain of a successful basketball team. But as he sat in Thunderstone's drawing room, he cuddled most prayerfully an object that looked to have come straight out of the Stone Age. Thunderstone, big and reposeful and hospitable, lolled in an easy chair opposite. He puffed at a pipeful of fragrant tobacco Longspear had given him. Tobacco mixed Indian fashion with nikic and red willow bark, and eyed the thing that Longspear had brought into the room. It was shaped like a smallish compact bolster, snugly wrapped in some kind of ancient rawhide, on which dark hair still remained, tight shrunk leather thongs that held that wrapping in place. In Longspear's hands it seemed to have some solidity and weight. I want you to keep it for me, my friend, said Longspear. Your trail to those above is different from the Indians, but you know and respect the faith of my people. I respect all true worships. Nodded Thunderstone. Yet I know very little of what your tribe believes. If you care to tell me, I would care to hear. We were living on the western plains when the first Spaniards came under Coronado, Longspear told him, and his voice shifted to a proud, deep register. Before that we had lived who knows where. The name of the land cannot be traced today, and perhaps it is legendary, but the old men say that we came from there to the plains country. When the made ready to migrate, their guardians, those above, descended from the shining lodge and walked like men to advise and help them. To each warrior who headed a family was given a sacred bundle to keep in his home and to pass on in reverence to his oldest son. This, and he lifted the rawhide bolster, is one such, given to the man who fathered my clan of the I, as hereditary chief, have charge of it. When I came east for the purpose of conferring with the government, I felt I must bring it along. For worship or for safekeeping? Asked Thunderstone. For both. Longspear spoke almost defiantly. I have learned white men's ways, learned them so well that I think I shall defeat the warped arguments that now threaten us. But I hold to my father's belief, as a true son should. Do you object? Not in the least, because you don't object to mine. Thunderstone leaned forward. Will you permit me to touch the bundle? Longspear passed it to him as gently as though it were an infant prize. No. Longspear passed it to him as gently as though it were an infant prince asleep. As Thunderstone had judged, it was compact and quite weighty. He examined the rawhide with a soft pressure of his long, strong forefinger. His eyes were studious on either side of his big, dented nose. Buffalo hide, I judge, but it is as old as you seem to think. But is it as old as you seem to think? We'll find out. Longspear smiled, quite beautifully. Not the hide. That was put on by my grandfather when I was no older than Than I say 60 years ago? What? That was put on by my grandfather when I was no older than something about 60 years ago. When the outer covering of the bundle became worn or damaged, we wrap it in fresh hide. It is not permitted to open the bundle, that is, as I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce this word. The Tishcha say, bad medicine. Of such bundles I've heard, nodded Thunderstone, yet I've never seen one, even in the museums. You won't find the Ark of the Covenant in a museum either, reminded Longspear. The Tishcha would as soon sell the bones of his father, and don't ask me what's at the center of the bundle. I do not know, and I do not think any other living man knows. I do not think that anyone had better find out. I'm on the ground floor. People can look right down at me. I don't really know if anybody is. They probably are. I probably look mad. Thunderstone handed the bundle back. Well, you want me to keep it for you. But why? What makes you hesitate to keep it yourself? Someone's after it, said Longspear, in a voice that suddenly grew taut and deadly. Someone who calls himself a reformer, who protests against the old Tisha worship. He knows it makes our tribe solid on its reservation, and he wants to disrupt so as to rob the as other tribes have been robbed. If anyone wants to pull me up on the pronunciation of that, please go right ahead. I don't want to be rude in case. Thunderstone lighted his pipe again. Let me guess, Longspear. Might the name be Rowley Thorn? Rowley Thorn. The blue-black head shook. No, I've heard a little of him. He causes trouble and evil for trouble and evil's sake. You've met him and defeated him, haven't you? Rowley Thorn is washing dishes in a restaurant where I would not care to eat. That is somewhere else. I've heard of Roy Bolger. Again, a head shake. No, the Reverend Mr. Bolger opposes our worship, calling it heathen, but he's an honest, narrow missionary. He isn't in it for profit. You Indians like to put riddles, don't you? The man must be Barton Siddons. Barton Siddons. Yes, Longspear's brown fist clenched on top of his bundle. He's interested in several congressmen who know nothing about Indians. Convinces them that we're banded together in ancient warrior belief. It may cause trouble, even an uprising, once restrictions placed on our worship. Well, and the other fist clenched. I'm here in the East to argue with certain congressmen myself. If they don't listen, I'll talk to the president, and I can finish up with the Supreme Court. There's such a thing as freedom of worship. Bless you, bless you, bless you.
Thank you.
And I'm to protect your sacred bundle from Siddons? If you will. He told me that he'd destroy it as a symbol of wickedness. A symbol of wickedness. Nice appending of the frantic former style, but what he really wants to do is shame me before my people. I wouldn't dare go back to them without the bundle, even if I gained a victory in the dispute, you understand? Perfectly, said Thunderstone. He rose, towering mightily, and crossed the room to where hung a painting of autumn trees. He pushed it aside and revealed a wall safe, which he opened. Will it go in here? Longspear bought it, and it went in easily. Thunderstone closed the safe and spun the dial. Now, my friend, they say that no Indian will refuse a drink. How about one here and some lunch in the grill downstairs? Those who understand John Thunderstone, and they are not many, say that he has two passions, defeat of ill magic and service of the lovely Sharon, Countess Montesco. This does not mean that he is otherwise cold or distant. His friends include all sorts of persons. Not all of them canny, but all of them profitable. He likes to set himself apart from others who study occultism, in that he does not believe himself to be psychic. If he were asked the wish of his heart, he might say that it was the return of honesty and good manners. I think we can keep going for a little bit. He and Longspear had a good lunch, for they both liked excellent food and plenty of it. Oh, sorry, Teddy, I'm blocking you from view. It was really rude. And at the end of it, Longspear excused himself, promising to come later in the evening. Thunderstone remained alone at the table, sipping a green liqueur and thinking about whatever Thunderstone is apt to think about. His reverie was broken by a voice beside him. Pardon me, but aren't you John Thunderstone? The author of those articles in the Literary Review about modern witch beliefs? I read them, enjoyed them a lot. Mind if I sit down? Siddons is my name. The speaker was narrow-bodied, tall, with hair growing to a point on his forehead, head and a cleft dimple in his chin. No. Hair growing to a point on his forehead and a cleft dimple in his chin. He might be distinguished looking, except for two shifty, greedy eyes. He dropped into the chair that Longspear had vacated. Mr. Thunderstone, to judge by your writings and your looks, you're a civilized gentleman with a sense of spiritual rights and wrongs. Thanks, nodded Thunderstone. Do you know the Indian you were eating with? I seldom eat with people I don't know, Mr. Siddons. I mean, do you know his character, Mr. Thunderstone? I'll be blunt. He's a dangerous barbarian. Thunderstone sipped. Barbarian is a hard word for Longspear. He's well educated and has profited by it. Do I understand that you and he are enemies? Obviously. Siddons nodded emphatically. We are, I'm proud to say. I know these aboriginal intellectuals, Mr. Thunderstone, yapping for special rights and prerogatives on the grounds of being here first, and planning, sir, to bite the hand that feeds them, bite it clear off, if they get teeth. And Siddons showed his own teeth. Thunderstone made his voice lazy as he said, I never saw Longspear bite anything savagely, except perhaps a filet mignon. Suppose, Mr. Siddons, you tell me what fault you find with him, and why you seek to impress me with it. Faults? Plenty of that. The man's a heathen. His tribe, the believes in human sacrifice. Again, Siddons grimaced furiously. A captive girl, concentrated to whatever devil they worship, shot to death with arrows and chopped to bits. The haven't done that for a century or so, reminded Thunderstone smoothly. Unlike me. It's an interesting study, that sacrifice rite, done for crop fertility and suggests some relationship to the Aztecs. The were considerably cultured for Plains Indians, lived in earth houses instead of teepees, grew maize and beans and potatoes. We were well... No, it's not going to work tonight. Were well advanced in painting and carving, and had a hereditary aristocracy. Aristocracy. That's what I'm getting at, rejoined Siddons warmly. Hereditary aristocracy, because a copper-coloured tramp is born of the old chieftain stock, he swanks around like a Grand Duke, not American. Not American, repeated Thunderstone. They were here well before us, and it's American to let them keep to their own ways. Not the ways of the not when they're dangerous. Sir, I've been there to their reservation. They stick together like a secret society, with their scowling brown faces and maybe knives and pistols under their shirts. It's their clinging to old customs and worships and obedience to their hereditary chiefs that make them menace. A menace. I'm one who wants to stop them. Thunderstone considered. It seems, he said slowly, that twice before white men tampered with the Indian religions. There were uprisings each time, brutal and bloody. The Smohala Rebellion in the 80s and the Ghost Dance War in 1891. If the worship is tampered with, but why should it be? A religion that advocates human sacrifice? I know that it hasn't been practiced for years. I'm gonna call them the T's. Okay? Just easier for me right now. I know that it hasn't been practiced for years. The T's worship the Shining Lodge and those above, quietly and sincerely, and they credit their gods with being kind, giving them, for instance, mineral wealth, mines of cinnabar, and some oil property. I'm going to try for 5 more minutes. It's a bit late, so I should probably go inside and stop keeping everybody up. Although I really don't think I'm keeping everybody up. I think it's the dynamite. Siddons started violently and licked his lips. Well, it's still heathen and barbaric. And as a non-white organization, it's dangerous. Now to answer the second part of your question. Why should I tell you these things, you ask? It's tied up to your friend, Longspear. A civilized American citizen, said Thunderstone. Suppose, said Siddons craftily, I was to prove that he wasn't. Thunderstone's black brows lifted, and he said nothing. Suppose I should tell you, went on Siddons, that he carries a savage talisman with him and places his faith and sense of power in it. An ancient fetish. A sacred bundle of the T's religion, suggested Thunderstone. Exactly. You know about sacred bundles? A little. Go on with what you say. Well, Longspear has one. His whole narrow Indian mind is obsessed with how holy and mighty it is. I mentioned the possibility of destroying it, and he said quite frankly that he'd kill me for that. Again, Thunderstone said nothing. His eyebrows came down again. His eyes narrowed a trifle. You, Mr. Thunderstone, have a reputation for crushing evil beliefs, and I have in mind that you might be persuaded to help. I know that Longspear has the bundle. I've seen it. Siddons leaned forward excitedly. Do you know where it is? I do, said Thunderstone, still smoothly. It's in a safe place of my lending, and it will stay safe. And it will stay there. Mr. Siddons, you'd better leave it alone, or I feel sure that Longspear's prophecy of death will come true. Thunderstone got up. He was always immense when he did that. I'd heard... who's talking now? I don't know. I'd heard about your real purpose in wanting to disorganize the T's. I made sure by mentioning their mineral wealth and saw you start. You want to get your hands on it, don't you, Siddons? Well, I'm not going to help you. I'll help Longspear because he's a sound, honourable pagan gentleman, and a credit to any race. Good day. Siddons rose in turn. His face twisted. His eyes rolled a little. I might have known. You you hocus-pocus birds are all alike, crackpots. But don't try to buck me, Thunderstone. I might cut you down to a dwarf. He strutted out like a rooster whose dignity has been offended. Thunderstone sat back in his chair. Waiter, he said, another liqueur. So there's part one of... I better stop now. Part one of... The Golden Goblins. I am thoroughly intrigued as to why this story is called The Golden Goblins. Thoroughly intrigued. And I hope you are too. Alright, so, from me and Teddy, thanks for joining us. Hope you're having a wonderful time wherever you are. Yeah. I always want to read more, but I won't. Leave it at that, and because mostly my phone doesn't have enough storage space on it to record more and make a real video. Cry you a river. Okay, thank you for joining me. Yeah, thank you from me and Teddy.